One Plaquemines parish deputy has had more than a dozen complaints filed against him in the past 3 years.
But there's one thing in common with every time he was exonerated, and that has a law professor questioning whether there's a conflict of interest within the department. Here's our latest investigation.
This is shocking. It's outrageous. It's inexplicable. It is so patently wrong.
Kenner resident Jared Folks spent 72 hours inside this holding cell trying to get some sleep on a metal bench, pacing to kill time. Locked up because a deputy in Plaquemines Parish swore in an affidavit Folks, who you see right here, is the same person you see here in what that deputy calls high-quality surveillance video.
Well, you're not supposed to swear out an affidavit that you know not to be true. So if he's swearing out a false affidavit for a arrest warrant, that's not kosher.
That deputy, Vincenzo Sonato, investigated Folks in 2022 and claims he was involved in a hit and run at the Park Plaquemines subdivision where a truck hit a gate. Problem is, it wasn't Folks driving the vehicle in question. Here's the exact time of the incident in Plaquemines Parish. At the same time, here's Folks in Kenner watching the Super Bowl at his office. A subcontractor was actually driving the vehicle and called Folks after he said the subdivision gate malfunctioned.
I said, the gate has malfunctioned. Do you have contact information for the homeowners association? That way we can reach out to him. And he said, I'm at a Super Bowl party. I have an email. I can send it to you in the morning. He said, basically free the truck and we'll contact the, homeowners association and get the repairs done to the truck.
After we asked questions, the Plaquemines district attorney dismissed the case, and the sheriff says the investigating officer, Vincenzo Sonato, had been reassigned pending an investigation. And that's where this story takes a turn. The investigating deputy, Sonato, has a history of misconduct on the job. In 2020 and 21, he served 5 separate suspensions, totaling 7 days, for violations on the job. In one case, he got into an argument with the supervisor, and another drove 80 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone during inclement weather with a suspect in the back seat. And one, Sonato backed into a vehicle, then left without telling the owner or reporting the incident. Sonato's also lost his take-home car privileges multiple times, including once when he ran a red light, driving over 100 miles per hour without lights or sirens on the way to a call. Since 2020, he's had another 8 separate complaints that were unfounded or where he was exonerated, including 3 just this year. The Plaquemines internal affairs officer investigating all 8 of those complaints where no wrongdoing was found was Lieutenant Jennifer Daigle Johnson. It just so happens she is the same officer listed on the affidavit who helped Sonato authenticate what they call high-quality surveillance video in the Folks case.
It is strange that of all of the people in the entire police force at Plaquemines Parish, the one that this officer chose to confirm his assessment of this video is this internal affairs officer, who I would think doesn't function in this fashion. Normally, when you're in internal affairs, that's a full-time job. You don't also do this other kind of thing. So that's really what's troubling to me.
Looking at it another way, at the same time Lieutenant Jennifer Daigle Johnson had active ongoing investigations against Sonato, she also worked with him, authenticating this video, helping lead to Folks' false arrest.
There's clearly a conflict of interest. There's no question about it. If you're an internal affairs officer and you're investigating charges against police officer X, and while you're doing that, you're also working with police officer X on some sort of official police business unrelated to these charges, that's impossible. There has to be clear rules against this in the parish police officers manual. And even if there's not, no reasonable investigator would do such a thing. There has to be a complete wall of separation between the people who do the investigation and the investigators. But the fact that this guy asked her to confirm suggests, only suggests, there's some prior relationship between the two of them beyond investigator and subject of investigation.
We asked the sheriff's office who would be conducting the internal investigation into Sonato in the Folks case. A spokesperson responded late this afternoon that Daigle Johnson won't be overseeing the case, but says the commander of the Internal Affairs Division, Major Michael Martin, is in charge of the investigation.
Does the sheriff need an outside agency or someone other than Internal Affairs investigating him, since there may be a conflict with that office?
Well, it certainly shouldn't be Officer Johnson, that's for sure. It's, again, it may be her lack of integrity that's involved here, not the entire office. But if I were the sheriff and I had a situation like this, first of all, I would have investigated it 8 months ago, not now. And certainly, with the string of adjudications of the prior investigations against him, all of which found no cause, all of them, every one of them, suggest maybe they're fairly lax in how they're investigating these things, and doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence that they're going to do the right thing this time, particularly because they waited so long and only until they had their finger caught in the cookie jar by you.
Even though the DA dismissed the charges, the sheriff's office spokesperson defended the agency's investigation into Folks. In a statement, the office says while being questioned, Folks stopped answering questions and said he wanted to speak to his attorney. A spokesperson saying this refusal to cooperate hindered his ability and responsibility to mitigate the situation. Joel Friedman says this statement and this story shows a law enforcement agency ignoring a clear conflict of interest and an officer arresting a suspect for exercising his right to remain silent.
When somebody's charged by the police, it's not their obligation to prove their innocence. It's the police department's obligation to find the facts to determine whether there is guilt or not. Remaining silent is not a problem. And of course, in fact, you have a constitutional right to remain silent once you've been interrogated and indicated that you are a person under suspicion. So that's a makeshift argument. I don't even believe the sheriff believes it. I think the sheriff is just humiliated by the fact that this has gone on and was trying to sweep it under the rug and had done so until you unearthed it.
While the Plaquemines DA dismissed the case against Folks, the Parks of Plaquemines subdivision has filed a civil lawsuit against Folks, citing many of the same claims in the dismissed case. Meantime, Folks filed a federal lawsuit against the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff and Deputy Sonato for false arrest and imprisonment.